In University of Scotland's written evidence, they highlight very specifically an issue around students in that pre-arrival period, and in particular where they've had a conditional offer, and therefore it's relatively late in the day before they know they're coming to that university, or the university knows they're coming. Now, the evidence that we've received has suggested that there are issues there around just purely around timing. And that you can have a situation where returning students' needs are already known and they're almost ahead of the queue in trying to get the resource that's needed. And it can be very frustrating for the new students. How significant a problem is that for universities?
I mean, to some degree, it can be a resourcing issue within the teams. That if you have sufficient capacity, you should be able to manage that. One of the challenges that we particularly find is we hit an embargo period in August where we can't communicate with applicants. And that actually does slow us down, because there's no reason that we can't be in touch with students who might have a conditional offer, just to kind of start that dialogue and that conversation, and they might feel comfortable sharing any documentation that they have with us. The embargo hits and we cannot communicate with them. We do as much as we possibly can before that period, but equally we do have students who don't want to declare a disability at application. And I think over the past 5 to 10 years, there's been really great strides in changing the perception that declaring a disability is a taboo, or that if you declare a disability to the university, your offer is going to be revoked. But I think there might still be that perception for some students, and that's why we do get late declarations as well. So
there's a reference in the written evidence to the issue of the schools being closed at that point. To what extent would you be able to explore with the schools the specific needs? To what extent are you permitted to explore with the school the specific needs of a student who may be coming to you?
It really does rely on the student actually communicating with us more so than with the school. But there potentially is a role within the schools to help students understand that administration that's needed in order to get the support put in place when they join us.
Okay, now I've got 3 questions, but the good news is they're mostly focused on universities and colleges, so you won't all have to answer those. The first one concerns the Independent Living Fund and the Disabled Students Allowance. Now, Fiona Whelan touched on the latter earlier. I'm interested to explore with you the extent to which those interact with the experiences of the students and the support that's provided to them, how effective they are in delivering what the students need or supporting them to go through college and university.
I mean, I can speak to the Disabled Students Allowance, which I think for the students that receive it can be hugely beneficial, and it actually can make all the difference. Very much dependent on the individual need, the disability, and what that needs assessment comes out with. But it is a challenging process for students to understand, particularly if maybe they've gone through school and been able to access support on the basis of need, not on evidence. One of the key problems we have at the moment, and it's very specific to SAS in comparison to the other funding bodies, is that we as a university, we will sign off the needs assessment by and large for the student, but we're not allowed to know when they've got their award. So we can't say to them, great, you've got your award, let's talk through the different support and how we put that in place.
How do you monitor any changes in their needs? How do you monitor whether there's something you've missed and then seek to provide that support?
Again, that could be done in many ways, and I think most universities would strive to have a very constructive and open relationship with students so that they know that they can come to us if there is anything that they want to discuss, if the support put in place isn't working and that they need any adjustments. But that does rely on the student being proactive about that. So obviously there's other mechanisms that universities can put in place to spot students that might still be struggling or might need something in addition. So, across the sector, it would be quite standard to have staff within schools that would have a role. But I think there is certainly a role for academic staff in being disability aware and being able to feel confident in supporting students, spotting students, having a gentle conversation.
I'm always struck by something a college principal told me. Their college runs land-based courses involving animal husbandry, and they had quite an attrition rate and a developing attrition rate, dropouts from those courses, because they had a large number of students who had mental health issues, who had been encouraged or directed to go on those land-based courses on the basis that, well, it would be good for you to work with animals. They got to the college and found that as individuals, those courses weren't suitable for them. Is that, I'm not going to suggest that's commonplace, but is that something that you have to contend with?
We do have experience in colleges where young people with disabilities come through and on a particular course, because that's what was perhaps suggested for them. But that's not set in tablets of stone. We're quite flexible.
So is there a genuine issue here with young people with disabilities perhaps being pigeonholed when they're being directed towards college, university? An assumption made about the limitations they might have?
I think you're right, and I think it's because of a lack of understanding of what people need. I think it's about a lack of understanding of how to communicate and to express experiences and what experiences might look like. I think there's probably a lot of work to be done about supporting students to make informed choice, to understand it,